Hi there, welcome to brainstemschool.com, and today we'll be talking about types. The concept of type refers to the kind of data. There are different kinds of data, and each one has its own purpose. For instance, one common use for numbers is counting. So let's look at the number 3.14. Well, what's the next number? Is it 4.14, 3.141, 3.15, 3.1401? It could be any of those. The other thing is that in Python and most programming languages, decimal numbers really aren't decimal numbers. Remember that the computer uses binary in its internal workings. People use decimal or base 10. So there are some important differences. For instance, 1/3 is easy for us to understand, but not easy for us to accurately represent in numbers. 0.3 is not a third, neither is 0.33, or so forth. That's why we say it's 0.3 repeating, but we can never write enough threes down to exactly get 1/3. Well, a very similar circumstance will happen in the computer's mind with some decimal numbers that we take for granted. For instance, 1/10. It's easy for us to imagine and to write as 0.1, but for a computer, it's not so easy. What is 1/10 in binary? Is it 0.0011, 0.00110011? So, using decimals is fine, except for when it's not. That's why there are different types. We'll use integers for counting, floating point decimals for approximating decimal values. And in Python, integers are known as ints. Decimal numbers are known as floats. Text is represented by strings, and that uses the abbreviation str, and Boolean values of true or false are represented by the word bool. Another important distinction to make is between a numeric value and a string value. So for instance, if I have the number 1, its value is 1. If I have the number 1 in quotes, its value is also the number 1 in quotes. But if I were to ask the computer if the number 1 is equal to the number 1 in quotes, it says false. No, sir, it is not. The reason why has to do with type. As you can see, the computer responds appropriately. The value 1 is of type int. The value 1 in quotes is of type string. So even though in our minds 1 is 1, in the computer's mind, these are completely different values. That's why if I were to try and add 1 and 1, I get 2. If I were to try and put the string 1 next to the string 1, I get 11 because it concatenates or appends 1, 1 after the other 1. But if I were to try putting 1 as a string right next to 1 as an int, it says, no sir, you may not. Likewise, if I were to put the integer value first, it says, I don't think so. And if you look closely, there are actually different error messages. The first one is trying to convert an int to a string. The second one says you can't add an int in a string. And that's because the plus sign is attached to the first value. So, in the first example, we're trying to concatenate a non-string to a string. In the second example, we're trying to add a string to a non-string. The easiest way around this is a cast. A cast is a forceful changing of type. So, for instance, if I were to say, take the string value of the integer 1, it'll say, oh, that's an 11, after it puts the 1, 1 after the other one. If I were to say, take the int value of this string 1, it'll say, oh, well, you want to add them. So let's come up with 2. Sometimes you don't need to do a cast, and a value is automatically promoted to a different type, such as if I were to say 3 plus 3 That's going to give me 6. 3.0 plus 3.0, that'll also give me 6, but in this time it's as a float, 6.0. But if I were to give one int as 3 and the other int as 3.0, it's promoted to a float. And just to prove it, I'll ask what the type of the result is. And it tells me it's a float, even though the type of one value is an int. That gets promoted to the other type. And finally, remember that the values true with a capital T and false with a capital F are actual values. That's why if I were to say 5 is equal to 5, it says the answer is true. And that is a value of type bool, or Boolean value. And just as before, if I were to put it in quotes, it ceases to be a bool, and now it's a string. And in the computer's mind, what's between the quotes might as well say anything in the world. It's still a string. It's always a string. Anyway, thanks for coming. And visit brainstemschool.com. Have a great day.